Hey, it's great to have Aaron on the call today. This is going to be exciting. I'm very much looking forward to the workshop that you and Peter Kunkel have in store for us at the NACC. But before we get in, Aaron, would you just share a little bit about who you are and a little bit of background on yourself?
Yeah, I'm the lead pastor at Traders Point Christian Church in Indianapolis, and we've been here about almost 5 years now. And my wife Lindsay and I, we've been married for about 13 years. We have 4 kids, so our schedule's pretty full, taking care of all of them, raising a household. And just after the weekly grind of ministry, just like so many people are that are going to be attending the North American.
Now, this year's North American is a little different than the way it's been structured in years past, and I want to get your feedback on that. What are you excited about, given the new format this summer?
Well, I think that the North American has always been a great time during the middle of the summer to reconnect with friends and acquaintances and make some new contacts. And I think that with the new format, everything being under one roof, with the theme of being refreshed, because largely so much of how I felt coming away from the North American every year was just encouraged by the conversations I would have in between sessions and at the workshops. And you'd always get some great content. There's always great worship experiences there. But I would always remember kind of that conversation I had with somebody out in the hallway or reconnecting with somebody. Having everything under one roof, I think helped to enhance that. And let's be honest, we're all working hard, and to be able to take a little bit of time in the middle of the summer to speak into each other's lives, to breathe fresh wind into our sails. I'm just looking yesterday. It's amazing to me on Easter Sunday, Resurrection Sunday, with social media now. I had text messages and Twitter contacts from pastors all over the country saying, "Hey, we're praying for you today." And just that little bit of encouragement was so refreshing. And so to be able to have a week during the middle of the summer where that can be so concentrated, I think is going to be a real big help to a lot of servants in ministry.
Now, this summer, you and Dr. Peter are going to be co-facilitating a good workshop on leadership and communication. Talk to us a little bit about what people can look forward to.
Well, I think anybody that's ever preached or had the opportunity to preach 2 Sundays or more in a row understands the weight of that. Like it's one thing. Like I remember when I was kind of in the bullpen and kind of the youngest guy on staff, and I'd get my assignment, and they said, "Hey, you're going to preach 6 weeks from now. Be ready. Here's your theme. Here's your text." And then I'd have 6 weeks to write it. I'd have it done 5 weeks in advance. I'd edit it, re-edit it, and come out of the gates swinging. And you'd have just your best content. And those were fun. And then there's a different gear you've got to find when you've got to preach 40 or more times a year. And you don't have all that time to spend editing and re-editing and researching and finding all the illustrations. And I remember reading an article on preaching years ago in Leadership Journal called Backdraft Preaching. And it was the idea that you work all week to build a fire. So you gather the wood and you get the pit and you set it all up. And then on Sunday, whether the material you feel is very good or not, you got to light that baby on fire. And then on Monday morning when you come in, it's just a smoldering pile of ash. And you got to start rebuilding that fire again. And you do that week in and week out. You definitely learn and you grow deeper as a preacher and you get more seasoned. But there's also the risk of burning out. And there's the risk of running low on energy, and you really speak out of the deep well and resources of your relationship with Christ and your own study. And man, if really as goes preaching, so goes the church is true, and I believe that it is because of the power of God's word. If I'm flat and if I'm without any passion and my well's not very deep and I'm tired and it's just a pile of ash that I'm giving the church every week, then we're not going to have a very strong church, and we're not going to make strong disciples, and we're not going to lead very many people to Christ. And so it doesn't all ride on the sermon, but it's certainly huge. And so the assignment that Pete and I have been handed to us, and we're very excited about it, is we're being refreshed through preaching. And so what are some key philosophies, some practical helps, some principles that we kind of need to get back to, so that way we can make sure that our preaching is fresh and biblical and from God on a weekly basis.
That's good. Now, Wayne Cadero came out with a book a while back called "Leading on Empty," and a very, very good book. But it speaks to a lot of, I think, what you're going to be covering. Aaron, how does a pastor keep from allowing that well to run low? How do you keep that well, fresh and vibrant?
Mm-hmm. Well, I think that the best answer that I think we could give is really making sure, and it sounds simple, but it's something that we overlook, I think, because it's simple. But really doing that gut check to say, how close am I staying to Jesus, and how often am I going to the Bible just to develop a sermon, or am I really going to make sure that the Bible's speaking personally? But I think being honest, I think don't fake it when you are tired. Don't fake it when you are empty. I think you can appropriately tell your congregation, man, I'm struggling with this, or I didn't really know what to say, or I kind of feel like I'm in trouble with this sermon, or God had to really push this into my life this week before I could deliver it to you, and I still don't know if I fully got a good grasp on it. And people can sense that, and they can sniff it out. And I think there's that element of, on a weekly basis, really, you've got to develop a routine on a weekly basis if you're going to preach 40 or more times a year. I think NASCAR calls it hitting their marks. And if you don't hit your marks, if you don't have a routine, and every preacher is different. I mean, I know guys that they come in on Monday morning and write the whole thing and are done by Tuesday. And I know guys who don't even start till Saturday. But whatever your routine is, stick to it. Get lots of sleep. There's the physical side of it, the spiritual side of it, the mental side of it, and make sure that you don't get knocked out of alignment when it comes to your weekly routine. So that way you're always ready to go, and you're not going to ever. I think Bob Russell said this years ago. It's always stuck with me. He said, "Don't swing for the fences every time. Just make contact." And oftentimes when you make contact, that's when really good things begin to happen.
That's really good. Just one more question for you. So what can people expect from your workshop this year out in Orlando in July?
I think I really just want to share a lot of kind of the personal experiences that I've faced through weekly preaching. I want to try to share some of the best books on preaching that I've read in the past, and some of the ones that I'm discovering here in the immediate. I really feel like, I've been preaching since I was 19 years old, and like most guys, I look back on my old sermons and just think, man, that is junk. And then I even look back at stuff I wrote last year and say, oh man, that was junk. Or I even look back. Sometimes it's the opposite. Sometimes I look back 3 years ago and go, wow, man, like I want to listen to that guy again. Where'd that guy go? Because I was just in a season where God was really speaking, and I was full of energy. And I will say this too: there was a difference preaching in my 20s. And I'll turn 36 here in a couple of weeks, which is still young, but old enough to notice energy level differences between the time I was 26 and beginning to recognize that and saying, I got to get ahead of that curve, because I know with each new decade, my energy level is going to be in a different spot. So I want to talk about some very practical stuff. Some good content, some best practices, so that way, regardless of whether you're a manuscripter or you're an outliner, or when you work on your sermon, how early you get that done, or how long you preach, because we all have got different systems. What are some key core principles that we can all lean back on and rely upon? And I want to talk about some of those this summer at the workshop.
Aaron, great. Thank you so much for just taking the time and sharing what's on your heart, and look forward to your workshop this summer.
Absolutely, man. I appreciate you having me.